Yo, what is up, everybody? My name is Jeremy Schumacher. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm the Jer in Wellness with Jer. Thanks for stopping by and checking out the channel. Today, we are reviewing a song that somebody said they subscribed to my channel and put it in the comments. They wanted to hear me do this song, I See You, Renegades. I also love a fan base that has its own name. So I'm unfamiliar with Ren, the artist, and I've only listened to the song after it was recommended to me. But we're going to do Hi Ren by Ren and I See You, Renegades. That's a great fan base nickname. So for those of you who are new to the channel, I am a licensed mental health professional. I've been in that industry for over 15 years now. I don't know anything about music. I can't play an instrument. I can't read music. I'm an appreciator of the art form. But we're going to talk about the mental health concepts. And I'm not like a fake reactor who's like, I've never heard this song before. What could the Beatles be? I don't know them. Like, come on, people, quit playing. I have listened to the song. I have some preconceived ideas of what we're going to talk about. This is my second listen, so I might notice some things in the music video I didn't catch when I was just listening to the song. So we're gonna all go through that together. We can get the old little reaction screen going, and figure out how YouTube algorithms work, because other therapists have reacted to the song and their video's not blocked, but I haven't figured that part out yet. YouTube remains a mystery to me. Here we go. Hi Ren by Ren.
Hi there, Ren. It's been a little while. Did you miss me? You thought you buried me, didn't you? Risky. Cause I always come back. Deep down you know that. Deep down you know I'm always in periphery. Ren, on your pleased to see me. It's been weeks since we spoke, bro. I know you need me. You're the sheep, I'm the shepherd. Not your place to lead me. Not your place to be biting off the hand that feeds me. Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself since my therapist told me I'm ill. And I've been making some progress lately, and I've learned some new coping skills. So I haven't really needed you much, man. I think we need to just step back and chill. Ren, you sound more insane than I do. You think that those doctors are really there to guide you? Been through this a million times. Your civilian mind is so perfect to always being lied to. Okay, take another pill, boy. Drown yourself in the sound of white noise. Follow this 10-step program, rejoice. All your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah.
Okay. I watched it once before, so I know it goes quick here. We're gonna just have to sort of interject. I didn't notice like him getting wheeled out by somebody in a pig mask. I think it was a pig mask in the video. But so we're meeting Ren here, and he's in a hospital gown in a very rundown sort of. I think it's trying to elicit like that old 1970s, 1980s institution type vibe. So Ren's clearly dealing with some mental stuff. He's in treatment. His therapist said he's ill, and he's kind of got like a, I'm going to call it that Gollum Smeagol from Lord of the Rings when he's arguing with himself back and forth. So sort of setting up two different perspectives. One, the softer, gentler, perhaps more authentic Ren, who's working through some stuff and trying to get better. and then maybe these old patterns. So taking a break, I learned some new coping skills. This is all like good stuff. Like, hey, I'm here for it. Therapy, woo. Um, and then that older part is like, did you miss me? Those people aren't good for you. They're lying to you. They just want to put you on another pill. And this I think is a fairly accurate portrayal of what a lot of people struggle with when they have mental health issues, is sort of this idea of how do I trust other people when I can't trust my own brain, but I know I can't trust my own brain. A thing I say in therapy all the time is like your brain. Um, when I'm dealing with somebody who's like anxiety, depression, when they have something that we've diagnosed and we're talking about why it's doing the things it's doing, is like your brain will lie to you. Your depression is a liar. Your anxiety is a liar. And so you sort of have to learn how to balance like my own brain isn't trustworthy, and I want to get better at building my intuition and trusting my gut. And so you sort of have to build out like the support system for, is this valid? Is this reliable? Is this overthinking something, or is this okay? Because as you're learning to sort of pull apart the threads of what does my brain do well and accurately, and what is skewed thinking pattern, or what is my brain sort of crossing some wires on, it's hard to tease that apart. You can't just sort of snap your fingers and be like, that's 2025, trust your own intuition. Like, I think that's what a lot of bad wellness does. Like, people who are not trained in mental health, who don't have any sort of background or understanding of research, how to find a scientific journal that's been peer reviewed, are missing. Like, yes, we want you to be your authentic self. And if you have a mental health issue, like it's biology. It's not just like, grin and bear it, which was the old version. And it's not like everybody's a special snowflake. And, like, I hold space for people who don't want to be medicated and manage their mental illness without that. I hold space for people who are learning how to do stuff on their own. I have ADHD. I've never been medicated for it. That doesn't mean it's better or the right way to do it. It just, like, I hold space for different people, need different things. Different people are doing things differently. So Ren here seems to be doing things differently and fighting against that old pattern. And this is the thing that we know is real. We talk about homeostasis, that old patterns pop up, they make sort of a power play, and all of that is talked about externally. So he's having this internal battle, but like the way that it works is really just biology. It's how our brains are wired to respond to patterns, and it's how our brains are wired on a truly a biological level when there's mental illness, where it's a chemical imbalance or it's some defense mechanism, a trauma response, whatever. It's designed towards safety, and that's been hijacked, and our central nervous system is all haywire with what it's assigning threat levels to and stuff like that. So there's an internal process, which is what I think the song's doing a really nice job of so far. But then when we as therapists sort of talk about it, we want to externalize it. It's not you. It's not what makes you up. It's not your mental illness, and it's not your brain anymore. Then it's just like, you don't identify as what your kidneys are doing. Why do I identify what our brain is doing? It's just an organ in our body. So there's a difference between who we are and what maybe our internal struggle is. So an artistic way to sort of approach it with the two different characters here.
Follow this 10-step program, rejoice, all your problems will be gone. Fucking dumb boy. Nah, mate, this time is different, man, trust me. I feel like things might be falling in place, and my music's been kinda doing bits too. Like I actually might do something great, and when I'm gone, maybe I'll be remembered for doing something special with myself. That's why I don't think that we should talk, man, cause when you're with me, it never seems to help. You think that you can amputate me? I am you, you are me, you are I am we are one. Split in two, that makes one, so you see, you gotta kill you if you wanna kill me. I'm not leftover dinner, I'm not scraps on the side. Oh, your music is thriving, delusional guy. Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? Where are your Grammys, Ren? Nowhere. Yeah, but my music's not commercial like that.
Okay, love this section. The old pattern, the unhealthy Ren, is calling out, you can't trust these other people. So trying to distance, which is what mental health issues do, like cut away your support system. You can't trust those other people. They don't like it when you're like this. You can't trust them. They don't know what it's like. They don't get you. So whatever, the brain's trying to sort of like tighten that unhealthy pattern. And our brain craves homeostasis. So even change, even if it's healthy change, there's a resistance to it. Old patterns make a power play. That's just how patterns work. We know that. So it's one of those things where I really like that portrayal. And then he's saying, no, look, like here's some evidence, right? Like I'm feeling good, but it's not just that feeling. I have some other things. I'm gaining some traction. Healthy version of me is feeling really aligned and congruent, and like that's cool. Something good might come out of all this strife, all this hardship. Um, and then very quickly, like, oh, you want to talk evidence? Where's your top 10 hit? Where's your interview with Oprah? You're not really making it. Is very much that internal dialogue a lot of people struggle with. We will colloquially, it's known as imposter syndrome now, which I think isn't a real diagnosis and also gets overdiagnosed. It's normal to have some doubt. It's normal to not experience, if we haven't done something, to sort of need to get through it that first or second time before we really truly know what to expect. Sometimes it's a lack of expectations more than imposter syndrome. But definitely, imposter syndrome is a nice sort of catch all for like, you're absolutely prepared and qualified and skilled enough to do something. That doesn't mean you'll do it 100%. That doesn't mean you'll be the best in the world at it. And our brain sort of comes back with like, yeah, but you're not even good at it if you're not getting these things. Like, how many people get an interview with Oprah? Yes, she's not on TV anymore, or maybe she has her own. I don't know. I don't have cable. Maybe she has her own brand, her own broadcast channel still, but like, she's not what she used to be. But that idea of like, where's your top 10 hit? And how many records have you sold? As if that's the only way that something can be successful. And so the brain is saying, oh, I see your evidence and I'm going to raise it. You don't have evidence. In fact, our evidence is that you're failing, you're falling short. But those expectations are so unreasonable. They're so over the top and unsustainable. But that's where we sort of get caught up. We're comparing ourselves not to ourselves, we're comparing ourselves to other people, artists who have more established fan base, who have done these certain things as if that's the only definition of success. Where comparing ourselves to ourselves, Ren's feeling better. He feels like he's making real progress. Things are taking off. They're better than they were. And when we compare ourselves to ourselves instead of comparing ourselves to other people, we get a better idea of it. So, 2 months ago, maybe his music wasn't doing this. Maybe the following he had wasn't doing X, Y, or Z. So comparing himself to his past self, progress, comparing himself to other people, falling short, quote unquote, falling short. Haven't made it. No big break yet. Which is all honestly based on like luck and a bunch of factors that we don't control coming into it. So that's another reason why we compare ourselves to ourselves is that the variables at play are much more up to us. So if we're comparing ourselves to other people, we start having all these variables that aren't under our control. Um, and a lot of like being famous, being successful to the point of being famous is based on either nepotism or luck. So like that is not a good thing. I worked a lot with, I have a sports psych background, so working with a lot of athletes. Um, the only form of success being to play pro and have that be your career is like less than 1% of athletes. So having that is a very unrealistic expectation. Not that it's impossible. I've worked with people who have been into the Olympics. I've worked with, conference championships, all Americans. Like I see the success that goes along with working hard and putting in a lot of effort. But there's so many things that you can't control either. And so sports is one of those things they talk about setting goals, like really competing against yourself, competing against the athlete you were last season or last game, even sometimes last practice. And that helps people be grounded so that it's not just like, if I don't go pro, I didn't make it, because that happens to so few people. And so something like the music industry, I would imagine, happens to even fewer people because art and creative outlets are probably bigger than athletics. I don't know that. I don't have statistics in my head to back that up. Usually I'll say something pretty confidently because I remember I read this thing or whatever, and maybe not citing it in that moment, but like I'm off the top of my head here of like creative pursuits. Sports really in America, sports are really big. Um, but no, the statistics are probably close, I would imagine, of like the number of people who certainly like make it big as a musical artist. Probably pretty like we're looking at that under 1% again for same with athletics, where it's just yeah, that's not what we want. That can't be our only definition for success. So also really good inner dialogue here, like pretty realistic view of what that can look like. Let's back up to the previous version of Ren talking.
I never chase numbers, statistics or stats. I never write hooks for the radio, they never even play me, so why would I concern myself with that? But my music is really connecting, and the people who find it respect it. And for me that's enough, cause this life's been tough, so it gives me a purpose I can rest in. Man, you sound so pretentious. Ren, your music is so self-centered. No one wants to hear another song about how much you hate yourself. Trust me. You should be so lucky, having me inside you to guide you, remind you, to manage expectations, provide you perspective. That thing you neglected, I get it. You wanna be a big deal, next Jimi Hendrix, forget it.
We'll hopefully have some editing magic there. Get it together, Jer. The response, like, man, just responding to the talking points that I was even making there of turning it from like realistic expectations. My music's really not about numbers. I don't pay attention to statistics. It's connective. It's about doing something good with these experiences and having it be community based. And then that internal dialogue turns it again, right? So you sound so pretentious. All this stuff that's like good, like altruistic, helping other people, community building. Let's have my experience hopefully be useful or helpful to someone else. It's not about ego there. It's about community, healing in community. And the brain still twists to be like, you sound so pretentious. And like, that's not what just happened. And yet that is how our inner dialogue often works. We're like, yep, that just twisted it all right away. So now that guilt and shame spiral is hit where we feel bad about ourselves. And then our brain can start finding evidence of like, yep, you are a pretentious twat. And here's why the thing you just said that sounded really good actually isn't good. You're still selfish. And so it takes like evidence and grounding and flips it right away. And when it's just this internal dialogue with us in our own head, it's really hard to sort of grasp where that is. Like, you sound so pretentious. You sound so pretentious is such an effective flip because it's like you're coming across this way, but it's all in our own head. So it's not like that takes it out of evidence base, gets us into our feels, and then it tries to come back with evidence again after this flawed premise that isn't based on the evidence. So like it's just a very effective way of showing this is how self-talk, negative self-talk can catch up so quickly, and how it can be really hard for us to sort of catch that in the moment because it's very sneaky. It's fire hose of lies is like another way to talk about it, where somebody who's saying something that is incorrect confidently takes less work to lie than it is to prove that that thing's a lie. So that's a lot of our current political discourse. But like that happens in our own brains a lot too, where it's just like it's a feelings-based thing or it's a vibes-based thing. We feel down, we feel negative, and then like our brain will find proof of that because our brain is very good at finding patterns. So if we start with the flawed premise, we can usually defend it or add some quote unquote evidence to it to make us feel bad about it. All right, let's make sure I share my screen here. We did it.
Man, it's not like that. Man, it's just like that. I'm inside you, you twat. No, it's not, man. You're wrong. When I write, I belong. Let me break the fourth wall by acknowledging this song. Ren sits down, has a stroke of genius. He wants to write a song that was not done previous. A battle with the subconscious. Eminem did it. Played on guitar. Plan B did it. Man, you're not original. You criminal rip-off artist. The pinnacle of your success is stealing other people's material. Ren, mate, we've heard it all before. She sells seashells on the seashore. Fuck you. I don't need you. I don't need to hear this. Cause I'm fine by myself. I'm a genius. And I will be great, and I will make waves, and I'll shake up the whole world beneath it. That's right.
Yeah. So now we're having a different argument, right? So that false premise of sounds so pretentious, this is about you still, now has us debating that point where like that's what the healthy version is saying, that's not what it was about. And then just like sort of piling on of like other people have done this, it's not unique. The previous verse of like no one wants to hear another song about how you hate yourself, like I think that's how people who are struggling with mental illness feel. Like that's where they can really start to feel like they're a burden to people. No one wants to hear this again. They've heard it all before. You're just like you're not really suffering, you're just doing this for attention. Like the sort of societal messaging around it can really get in our own heads, and we can sort of preemptively think that's what my support system thinks about me, that's what my friends think about me, my family thinks about me. And then if that's what somebody actually says to you, it can be really horrific because now it's our own voice in our head saying that to us, and then it's that other person's voice in our head. And depending on who that person is, that can really stick with us for a long time. If it's a parent, coach, a mentor, a best friend, like that can be really damaging because then it's hard to tease out, even is it our voice in our head? Is it our anxiety or our depression, or is it like that person's voice? It sounds like our voice, but it might very much be somebody else's. So just a fantastic portrayal of this is how we can get sucked into these sort of negative self-talk spirals in our own head, and the struggle to know what is ourselves or somebody else in our own head. It's a really, really, really good job of some of this inner dialogue stuff. I'll back it up a sec here. Also, the escalation of like, fuck you, I don't need to hear this, get out of my head, is like the agitation, the stress levels rising from both of them, where we're getting more and more emotional and less logic. So like that's interesting too, to sort of watch how that's sort of playing out there.
And I will make waves and I'll shake up the whole world beneath us. That's right, speak your truth, your fucking God complex leaks out of you. It's refreshing to actually hear you say it instead of downplay it.
Music is all about the creative process, and if people can find something to relate to within that, then that's just a bonus.
Fuck you, I'ma fucking kill you, Ren. Well, fucking kill me then, let's fucking have you, Ren. I'ma do it, watch me prove it. Who are you to doubt my music? Cause I call the shots, I choose if you die. Yeah, I call the shots and so I choose who survives. I'll tie you up in knots when I lock you inside. Newsflash, I was created at the dawn of creation.
Okay, I remember this part, and I'm going to cut it off a little bit here. So we're back on the ego thing, right? Like it's refreshing. Like, oh, thank you for proving my point. So like it's all the negative side is all bad. Logical fallacies, it's cognitive biases, it's taking all these shortcuts, and it's so much more work for the healthy version to combat it and then to keep up, because there's more and more points coming up each time. And so like to stay grounded and to stay healthy and to be like focused on like something sustainable, healthy and sustainable, how about that, is really hard, because this other side of the brain isn't playing by those rules. It's not following proper protocols or logic or reason. It's just throwing stuff into motion and getting a response and then like walking away. So I think it's really hard. The shifty sort of like, if you're going to kill me, you have to kill yourself. Now suddenly our topic shifts to like, well, now we're talking about killing ourselves. So again, like we keep the unhealthy spiraling keeps shifting sort of our focal point, our talking point, where we're arguing different things than where we started. The goalposts sort of keep moving. We have too many topics come up at once. And this what can happen in our own head, certainly. As a marriage therapist, I see this a lot in couples where we have too many topics that we're trying to work through, and then we're not resolving any of them until we get overwhelmed and just are left with the shutdown. That's all we have. So the first time, again, I listened to the song the other day. So I know we're going to get into this next section that I don't love. But let's go there together, and we'll talk about why I'm not crazy about this being the landing point in the song.
Newsflash, I was created at the dawn of creation. I am temptation. I am the snake in Eden. I am the reason for treason, beheading all kings. I am sin, with no rhyme or reason. Son of the morning, Lucifer, Antichrist, father of lies. Mephistopheles, truth in a blender, deceitful pretender, the banished avenger, the righteous surrender. When standing in front of my solar eclipse, my name is stitched to your lips. So you see, I won't bow to the will of a mortal, feeble and normal. You wanna kill me? I'm eternal immortal. I live in every decision that catalyzes chaos, that causes division. I live inside death, the beginning of end. I am you, you are me, I am you, friend. Hi, Ren. I've been taking some time to be distant. I've been taking some time to be still. I've been taking some time to be by myself, and I've spent half my life ill. But just as sure as the tide starts turning, just as sure as the night has dawned, just as sure as the rainfall soon runs dry when you stand in an eye of a storm. I was made to be tested and twisted. I was made to be broken and beat. I was made by his hand, it's all part of his plan that I stand on my own 2 feet. And you know me, my will is eternal. And you know me, you've met me before. Face to face with a beast, I will rise from the east and I'll settle on the ocean floor. And I go by many names also. Some people know me as hope. Some people know me as the voice that you hear when you loosen the noose on the rope. And you know how I know that I'll prosper? Cause I stand here beside you today. I have stood in the flames that cremated my brain, and I didn't once flinch or shake. So cower at the man I've become when I sing from the top of my lungs that I won't retire, I'll stand in your fire, inspire that me to be strong. And when I am gone I will rise in the music that I left behind. Ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, we're a climate different side.
Okay, there's a lot there. I don't have an issue, and in fact, I help people do this to externalize some of those internal thought processes, right? But what I don't love is because I'm a religious trauma therapist too. I have all these different specialties, right? Y'all keep up. I got ADHD. I have a lot of different things I've specialized in over the years. But one of the things I don't like is where we give it like a totally disembodied thing. So it's the devil, it's Mephistopheles, it's something else. And where that happens with religious in religious context is that externalization isn't to get it out of our own head and make it solid. It's to show that we can't trust ourselves. So when we can say, this is what anxiety is like, this is what your brain's trying to do because of your anxiety. Now, what do we need your brain to do instead? It's still about you. It's still located centrally around you. It's still you doing something. But if we externalize it to a complete other entity, now you're like, it's decentralized. It's not about you anymore. It's about this thing you can't control. Like your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Now we lost control. We're not in kind of how to solve this or be a solution. We're in the problem is outside of us and can't do anything about it. So I don't love like devil. It sort of sets up like now the song can be reframed as like a devil on one shoulder, an angel on the other. I do really like the verse about hope, but like there's really religious imagery in that. I noticed, again, I listened to the song the other day, but didn't watch the video. He's got one of his ears pierced as a cross. So again, I don't know. I didn't look up Ren's background or what he stands for in other places, but like that Christianity piece there of like, I'm part of his plan. I was made to be tested. Like all that stuff in religious context is used to depersonalize and decentralize power and put it somewhere else, a God, a higher being, whatever. Whereas like we really want to sort of center around like, these are the things that are happening. They're not your fault, but they are happening inside of you. And like we have choices in how to respond to them. So we're trying to still center the solution, the resolution, the management techniques inside of us. We're not trying to take away the power. We're not trying to take away the autonomy. We're taking away the shame and blame because those aren't helpful, but we're trying to still center. So we really want to maintain that like autonomy is where the health and wellness lies. Like two of my big talking points in therapy are sustainability and health. Is something helpful or not is a paradigm I use, not whether it's right or wrong. And again, he gets a little off track on sin. Sin as a concept really doesn't mean anything because it's so morally subjective to the context. In the 1500s, sin was showing too much ankle. In different countries, sin might look like certain genders having their head uncovered. So sin is like this amorphous thing. It's very much about a power, a hierarchical structure. Sin doesn't mean anything in and of itself. So is it helpful or unhelpful is really the paradigm that I use for folks because it helps sort of ground us in some evidence. And again, that's tricky because our brain can find evidence for unhelpful thought patterns as well. But it's a better sort of grounding place to land in, is this helping me or not? Right? Like these negative thoughts aren't helping me. It doesn't make me feel good. It doesn't make me do what I want with my music. It doesn't make me a fun person to be around versus helpful stuff. It's like, yeah, it's connective. It builds community. It makes me feel good. It helps make other people feel good. It feels aligned to my morals, my ethics. So helpful, unhelpful, and really trying to stay centered in like autonomy. It's not about taking the autonomy away from someone. It's not about depersonalizing it or decentralizing it. It's about saying like, hey, this is what's going on. Here's why it might be happening. Here's informs what we know about it. And with that information, what do we want to do about it? Yeah. So like, other than the Christian, I just don't like some of the like language around it because it strikes me as too religious, too much of what I know is like spiritual bypassing, which is where we skip doing all the hard work just to feel good. Let go and let God. That's part of my plan. Being tested is a helpful thing. To feel bad and given an eternal reward, the worse I feel. And like again, that's just about control methods from organized religion. The organizing piece of organized religion is to keep people in their station in life, is to not keep them in the church or that organized religion, not have them be making changes. And so growing and being healthy, even in that context, can be seen as a bad thing. So I don't love that sort of angel on the shoulder, demon on the other side, because that the more accurate thing is what he says later is we're two sides of the same coin. It's about integrating. If I'm like this, if I have this part that does this, if I have this part that does this, if I have good and bad, if I have light and dark, right? Shadow work's very trendy right now in the wellness community. And it's not scientific. So like I'm wary of that stuff, but it is scientific to say, let me like find, yeah, there's evidence that I can be a super good, helpful person. There's evidence that I can be a little pretentious or I can come across the wrong way. Like rather than running away or avoiding either of those things, how do we look at it all our cards on the table, sort of like, yeah, let's take full stock of it. And with all that information we've gathered, make a decision, a well-informed decision, instead of just using part of our brain or part of the information that makes us feel better or more comfortable. So closer to say, yes, two sides of the same coin. It's even more expansive than that, though. Lands in a good place. Don't love the religious imagery. I backed it up a bit.
Behind, ferocious, persistent, immortal like you, we're a climate to different sides. When I was 17 years old, I shouted out into an empty room, into a blank canvas, that I would defeat the forces of evil. And for the next 10 years of my life, I suffered the consequences, with autoimmunity, illness, and psychosis. As I got older, I realized there were no real winners and there were no real losers in psychological warfare, but there were victims and there were students. It wasn't David versus Goliath. It was a pendulum, eternally swaying from the dark to the light. And the more intensely that the light shone, the darker the shadow it cast. It was never really a battle for me to win. It was an eternal dance. And like a dance, the more rigid I became, the harder it got. The more I cursed my clumsy footsteps, the more I struggled. So I got older, and I learned to relax, and I learned to soften, and that dance got easier. It is this eternal dance that separates human beings from angels, from demons, from gods. And I must not forget, we must not forget, that we are human beings.
Obviously, I love that. No, I mean it's really good up to a point. Again, the religious stuff, like I would just sort of tweak that to say, like, we need to remember we created the angels, we created the demons, we created the gods. Like that's all stuff that humanity made up to help us understand ourselves as reflections of ourselves. These are stories we tell ourselves. These are tropes. These are archetypes. These are things we tell ourselves to help us understand. Our brains are storytelling mechanisms. We like a start, a middle, and an end. And that's not really life. Life is sort of a journey. And I like the analogy of a dance. The more rigid we become, um, the worse it gets. The more we're focused on perfection, the less artistic it becomes. And the harder it is to do it in a way that feels good and it doesn't flow. And so this idea of like there are students, right and wrong is not a helpful paradigm. We're students of the game, we're learning. Um, it's really good. There's not winners in psychological warfare, but there are victims. Like, yep, I really like that line. I tell couples, less for individuals, but like I can see where it works when you're battling with yourself. But couples, I always tell people, the person who wins the argument is the first person to leave the argument. Like, once we're arguing, we don't have good outcomes. We're not winning or losing at that point. We've lost because we're arguing. So communication is broken down to that point. So I really like a lot of the messaging. I really like a lot of the metaphors. I think some of the externalizing that happens with like the religious stuff is unhelpful. I see the conclusion of that with people who are deconstructing and leaving religion, where like that has left them with no answers either. That has left them with no power or autonomy to do their own growth and well-being. It's just all sort of externalized to karma, to higher beings who are just again reflections, poor reflections of us, our hopes, our fears. They're the best of us, the worst of us, and we put a story into it. um, and that's really what it becomes. So I like, again, sort of where it lands, taking out some of that stuff and saying like it is about us, it is about finding balance. I talk about like a fluid mosaic a lot, as opposed to like puzzle pieces that fit in. It suggests, some of the metaphors we use suggest there's an end date, and there's really not. Until, as long as we're still here, as long as we're still in existence, there isn't an end point. It's still balance, it's management, it's resource management, it's investing in ourselves, taking care of ourselves. So it's less about that. Just because we have a diagnosis, we're discharged, or we're on the right meds or whatever, it doesn't mean we're done. It doesn't mean the work is done, but doesn't mean that there's not joy in the journey, and there aren't. It's not worthwhile to keep growing and to keep going. So yeah, I love the messaging overall. I think it's really good representation. I'm sure there are breakdowns of like the music video. I'm sure like the lights flickering and some of those other things, and the musical dissonance that happens when the negative part of the brain is talking versus the healthier part of the brain. So I'm sure there are deep dives people have done. I'm definitely interested, based on the messaging and the lived experience that he shares at the end of the video here, some of the other songs that tackle mental illness. Genuinely, I'm not just saying that to be like, hey, drop down in the comments, but also do save me some time and drop down in the comments. But it's yeah, that lived experience, I think, shapes it differently. This isn't somebody who sat down in a room of writers and was like, let's do a song for mental health because that's trendy. This is someone who's speaking from some lived experience. So I think that is really interesting, and to see sort of where that goes. So I know not all of his songs are 9 minutes long, so that should also help. We're at 38 minutes right now. So if you're still here, I assume you're a fan of Ren. Seriously, let me know what other songs you want to hear, so that we can do that. I like to talk about this stuff, a very real experience. I love when celebrities, when artists, when people who've had these real experiences share those things, because it normalizes a lot what people are feeling very ostracized, or they're in this alone. No one will get it. I love stuff like this. It's real and authentic enough to be relatable, but it's not so specific that people can't say like, oh, I don't get it because I never had schizophrenia, or I don't get it because I never had anxiety or depression, or neurodivergence, or whatever, religious trauma, little t traumas, whatever it is. I think the song's pretty broad enough to be general, but you can see sort of the lived experience that he's talking from. So really cool song. Thank you so much for commenting and subscribing. Great way for me to do a breakdown of the media you would like. Subscribe and let me know what you want to hear. It's a cool song, really good messaging. I think there's some other therapists who have reacted to this song. My YouTube algorithm shows me a vocal coach because I listen to a ton of metal. So then I listen to people who know how to do that with your vocal cords without ruining them. So that's my algorithm that shows up. But I know there's some other therapists who do reviews If you know how to do that without YouTube blocking it for copyright, drop that in the comments too, because that'd be helpful for me to know. I don't understand these things. But yes, that was Hi Ren by Ren. A subscriber of mine asked that I do it. So cool. Thanks for engaging. Thanks for showing up and wanting to talk about that. And I'm happy that I got to share. Yeah, really good song. And like, I didn't even talk about the musicianship, but like really good lyrics. Like that's a fun song. I'm gonna listen to that in a enjoyable way where I don't have to review it or not thinking about psychology. I can just appreciate some of the lyricism. Some of the wordplay was really good in there too. So very cool song. Thanks for stopping by and spending some time with me, taking care of mental health, talking about mental health and psychology concepts. Please, please, please take care of yourself. If you're somebody who's struggling, reach out. Don't spend time in your head. Talk to a therapist, talk to a trusted friend, talk to somebody who's been there before. This is part of being human. Nobody needs to go through it alone. So as I end most of my videos, take care of yourself, take care of somebody else. Peace, y'all.